NewsX Sunday Guardian Roundtable. Well, it's been 1 year ever since Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced demonetisation, and this week in the Roundtable we are going to try and assess the impact of the scheme. Has it been as big a success as we claimed it would be, or is the Congress right when it calls it a monumental failure? Joining me in this is Gaurav Bhatia from the BJP, Manish Tiwari from the Congress, Rajiv Chandrasekhar from the NDA, and Pawan Verma also from the NDA. I'll begin with you, Manish. What is your take 1 year later?
Well, my take, Priya, is exactly the same as it was on the 8th of November 2016 when the Prime Minister announced demonetisation. I was in a train coming back from Chandigarh, and when I heard that he has gone ahead and demonetised 500 and 1,000 rupee notes, that's 86% of the total currency in circulation. Okay. So I tweeted saying that it is a Tughlaki Farman. And which of course is a phrase that I have a patent on now. But be that as it may, as events have panned out over the past 12 months, one thing has become very clear, that demonetisation effectively torpedoed the Indian economy. It demolished and devastated the informal sector. 40% of India's GDP comes out of the informal sector. 91% of India's employment is in the informal sector. And so therefore, the kind of economic distress that you see today across India, whether in towns or villages, it's the double whammy of demonetisation coupled with a very tardy implementation of the goods and services tax, which nobody is able to figure out, which is primarily responsible for India's economy going at 3.7% if you measure it on 2004-2005 as the base year. And it's not that we are saying it. Even all those great international magazines and news channels which used to extol the virtues of the Prime Minister, you read The Economist, which has come out today. The Economist has taken the Prime Minister to the cleaners on demonetisation and on the goods and services tax. So therefore, I think it would be fair that the Prime Minister should stand up and concede that yes, the government made a mistake, it has hurt the economy, and therefore let's take it from there.
Rajiv, would you agree to all this? Because there is a fact, especially the small and informal sector has been hurt by demonetisation, and he may feel the impact in the Gujarat elections.
No, look, I think it was clear very early on that the demonetisation was a difficult decision in the sense that it was not going to be non-disruptive. It was aiming to solve a very deeply entrenched problem, legacy problem of black money in the economy.
But has it done that?
No, so let me finish. I think, so it was expected, and I wrote very shortly after the demonetisation decision that there would be impact on the informal sector. So to some part, I agree with Manish that the informal sector was impacted. But to categorize the demonetisation as a failure is basically getting carried away with a political narrative that they have heavily invested in. The demonetisation was about essentially bringing back all the black money into the banking system, which it has done. There was an expectation, of course, early on the demonetisation decision by the government that some quantum of that money would not come back into the banking system at all. And therefore, there would be some dividend that would accrue to the government and the RBI. That did not happen. That did not happen because of various reasons. I think there will be a lot of forensic analysis about the jugaad and the window that was opened up for exchange of notes, whether that was misused by the banking system and banking officials, etc., etc., etc. But the final report card on demonetisation is not out yet. When there is clearly a statement from the government that 2 lakh crores of deposits are under scrutiny, and that a large number of deposits under demonetisation, cash deposits are being examined, I think to hurry to judgment and to say that demonetisation was a failure is wrong. Did it cause some amount of disruption in the informal sector? Yes. I think that was felt early on, was confirmed early on by everybody, including parts of the government. So I would not, obviously, we've never agreed on many things anyway, so this is not the first time that I will disagree with Manish in saying that to categorize demonetisation as a failure, I think it is a work in progress. The cleansing of a 70-year-old, 70 years of a sense of a legacy economy cannot happen overnight. It takes more than a year, and I think we should just give it some more time.
Pawan, I said you are from the NDA, but I know you give issue-based support, but demonetisation is something that even Nitish Kumar did welcome.
Now, our position was that we welcomed the intent of the government and the Prime Minister, which was to eradicate or reduce the grey economy, which was running largely on black money. And to that extent, we supported the intent behind it. But it was Mr. Nitish Kumar himself who on a public platform said that in its implementation, it was a monumental management failure. Now, therefore, the question that arises if you are doing a balance sheet 1 year after the measure was announced is, how much did it succeed in achieving the goal that it was first introduced for? How much of collateral economic dislocation did it cause, which continues to be felt? Was it then worth doing in the manner in which it was done, given the setback it has given to the economy? All of these must be done not necessarily through partisan political debate, but through a very careful and objective analysis. I tend to agree that the level of economic dislocation was because of inadequate preparation to take that step. Huge, and continues to be so, and is being felt beyond such debates in studio rooms by people who are dealing with real situations of running a small business or of being an entrepreneur or the whole informal sector that was mentioned. So you must take the blame for the hardships it has caused, the poor level of implementation and planning, and continue to fight the fight against black money.
See, this is the thing, I spoke to a senior minister also, and he, what Manish is saying, 40% of the sector, the informal GDP is the informal sector which has suffered. And he said, oh, collateral damage. Now, collateral damage, you're ready to, overlook these things for the larger goal, but has that larger goal been achieved?
No, Priya, I would first say that what Mr. Narendra Modi, when he was sworn in as the Prime Minister, inherited was an economy.
Legacy to ho gaya. Now you're 3 years into
that's
the
very important. That's why I want to start.
Your own record now.
I will. I am here with the numbers. I'm prepared. Okay. I'll come to that. But I think, the backdrop is equally important. Why this decision was required for the economy. Okay. What we inherited was an economy that was in shambles. It was the will to fight corruption was completely missing. Mr. Narendra Modi took a decision that was in the interest of the country. Maybe for a short-term period, it wasn't a populist move. But there have been many advantages, and I'd like to start by some numbers. More than 30,000 crore undisclosed income was deducted and admitted. Rupees 16,000 crores were not deposited. Therefore, again, that was the benefit to the economy itself and the government exchequer. 3 lakh crore worth of cash deposits are under investigation. Most of it, I think, if people can't account for the wealth and the means by which they have accumulated that wealth, would again be a benefit to the economy. 3 lakh shell companies that existed. Did the UPA ever even try to take any measures to ensure that they are deregistered? No, they did not. These are only some of the benefits. Then, the formal economy was strengthened by this move. The tax bracket, just bear with me, 56 lakh individual taxpayers were added. So all these data that I am sharing with you would clearly show that it is a move. Yes, in the short term, it might have hurt the small sector, but at the same time, now the economy is again reviving. But just a few days back, the World Bank has given a rating where India's ranking has come up by 30 points, ease of doing business, which they say, is not ease of doing business. But I would say, during the UPA regime, it was ease of doing corruption. Yeah, everybody thought. Absolutely. He is the leader of the BJP. I have to reiterate, hammer it, because now the economy is...
You made him the leader of the BJP.
He is a very tall leader. He is a very tall. He's a tall leader. And
in the topic of discussion to the leadership of the BJP.
In the Rajya Sabha, he is the leader of the BJP.
Yes. See, I have a problem with this short-term argument. Again, that whole collateral damage imagery comes to mind. What do you say?
Priya, what were the 3 objectives which the Prime Minister set out on the 8th of November 2016 when he decided to demonetize? So the 3 objectives were that, first of all, it will unearth black money. Number 2, it will proscribe fake currency. And number 3, it will put a handle on terror financing. It took the Reserve Bank of India 9 months to come up with a figure as to how much currency has come in. And almost 99% of that currency, which was demonetized, has already come back into the banking system. Now, Gaurav argues that government got a benefit of 16,000 crores or some odd amount. Do you demonetize 16,86,000 crores worth of currency to get a benefit of 16,000 crores? Do you actually use a hammer to swat a fly? Number two, insofar as fake currency is concerned, there is no empirical evidence that the government has put out how much fake currency has been unearthed as a result of demonetization. Number three, on terror financing, did government have an idea as to what was the quantum of terror financing before the 8th of November 2016, that they could say that we will be able to proscribe terror financing? And if they had an idea, then they should put out a figure that how much has the terror financing come down by. So therefore, even on all those three objectives, which the Prime Minister himself outlined, the government has completely failed. Number two, even the legality of demonetization. The legality of demonetization, as we speak, is still under a challenge before the Supreme Court. And as we've discussed ad nauseum, even the entire exercise, forget the substance, even the process by which demonetization was done, it was per se illegal and in complete violation of the Reserve Bank of India Act. So therefore, I think the time has come, rather to keep shifting the goalposts and move from one to another, let us benchmark demonetization on the three objectives spelt out by the Prime Minister on the 8th of November when he announced the decision. And on all those three parameters, demonetization has failed.
We haven't yet heard from the government, how much in terms of the figures of demonetization. We've just been told.
No, you see, I think, look, with great respect to the Congress and my friend, I think they are so invested in this narrative that it is a failure, that they will make a case that it is a failure come what may. But let's just take his points. Let's assume that he's for a minute running this thing and he's putting out these 3 points. Unearth black money. Where is the evidence that the black money has not been unearthed? There is admittedly from the government, they have confirmed that there is 3 lakh crores of dubious deposits that they are scrutinizing. So how have you come to the conclusion that black money has not been unearthed? He says fake money hasn't been disclosed. We know a large amount of currency has come back. The RBI has gone through this huge logistical process of counting it. They will now have to go, if it's possible at all, to go and detect out of that 15 lakh crores, how much of it is fake money or not. So who has told him that there is no fake money?
But the RBI said 99% has come back.
Yeah, 99% of the currency notes that are in circulation have come back. How much of them are fake, how much of them are real, has not been disclosed. They have not been able to find out so far. So,
While counting, if you cannot find out which is counterfeit and what is real, that itself is a big failure.
And the third point, terrorist financing hasn't been squeezed. You really have to be extremely biased to ignore the fact that in those 3-4 months, there was a squeeze on cash of everybody, terrorist or no terrorist. So there was an impact on terrorist financing. There is definitely an impact on fake money. If there was any circulation, if the money has all come back. And there is clearly a work in progress about unearthing out of the 3 lakh crores of dubious deposit, how much of that is black money or not. So to come to a conclusion that these three have failed is, I'm just sorry to say this, wrong.
Okay, I know Gaurav also wants to come in, but we're going to take a short break and come back. So stay with us. Hello and welcome back to the Roundtable on demonetization. Pawan, before the break there were arguments about various statistics that have been cited by the government. Have those been met or not? But moving away from that, the anecdotal evidence also, are you at least happy about the fact we are moving to a cashless economy? Some goals are being met.
No, I'm not saying that, we must try and avoid black and white polarities.
Okay.
But I'm trying to draw a relatively objective balance sheet And I think that although the intent may have been good, there was definitely an identifiable element of financial adventurism in announcing a policy whose consequences in terms of adversely affecting a large swathe, a very large swathe of economy were uncertain, and certainly now we know post facto have been very adverse. So you must accept that fact. In fact, one of the things I always say, even when I am speaking to defend the government, is that the government has to be open to criticism where it's due in order to take corrective measures. This is what happened with GST. For a long time, it was maintained that there is nothing wrong with the GST. It took one former finance minister who was called a job applicant, one column from him and another interview by another former minister of the NDA, Vajpayee government, to make the government think that there are some correctives that need to be introduced. Now, similarly, on the question of demonetization, if you will allow, since it's my trademark on your program,
we were hoping you would go into one of the couplets.
Very apt Urdu couplet. Dil se to har muamla करके चले थे साफ हम, कहने में उनके सामने बात बदल गई. From your side, you thought that you were taking that giant leap forward into the unknown to achieve the near impossible but certainly laudable goal of eliminating black money. But by the manner in which you implemented it, I think made you fall definitively flat between several stools. And then the goalposts were changed. And then there are different forms of defense which are coming for it. Gaurav, my good friend, just started to quote the ease of doing business to support demonetization. If there is one thing within India which has most clearly affected ease of doing business, it is a demonetization measure. And he quoted 30 ranks up. You know, governments must retain a sense of balance. On starting a business, we are at 156. On getting construction permits, we are 181. On registering properties, we are 154. In paying taxes, we are 119. On enforcing contracts, we are 146. Do you focus on this, or do you suddenly become euphoric about the fact that on 2 or 3 parameters, and because of them currently, you have been given? So people, you are dealing with people. You see, you are not dealing with only your goals as identified in your mind.
There are a few points that have been made.
We are on the same side.
Absolutely, but then on few issues, when you say that, you know, I mentioned that ease of doing business, India has jumped up by 30 notches, because I think the larger debate that we are doing today is the economy. And demonetization and GST are two important decisions taken by the government, and we want to show how they have helped the economy and how the rank has gone up. That is, in that reference, I used the World Bank report, which said that the rank has gone up. But the resolve that Mr. Narendra Modi has for fighting corruption to ensure that we eradicate it, I'll just give you 2-3 examples. We are in the middle of the debate. Mr. Manish Tiwari doesn't refer to any of the scams that I referred to.
But the debate is about demonetization. I will get into the UPA.
It's fight against corruption. Fight. What was the purpose?
We've had that debate, and he has
without interruption, if I can have some time. I think, maybe you're missing the point, or either I'm missing the point, but I would like to place it in my opinion. Demonetization was also about weeding out black money. It was also about fighting corruption in India. The Honorable Supreme Court had directed the UPA government to form an SIT to, fight corruption. They did not. First cabinet meeting, Mr. Narendra Modi was sworn in as the Prime Minister. SIT was formed.
Okay.
Benami Property
intent,
Act. No, it's not about intent. It's all about the measures that a Prime Minister is expected to take. But for some reasons, maybe they were scared that if these tough laws are enacted, the first torpedo would be fired at the Gandhi family. That's the point, Lakhs of crores of rupees was unearthed because of demonetization. And I am only showing you the intent of the Prime Minister. Now, legality is some...
delivery, that is the intent.
Delivery, I've already given you the numbers. I just don't want to throw numbers at you. I have all the data with me. But I think the numbers that matter...
Should we have done GST so soon after demonetization?
See, GST was equally important, and I think, you know, an able finance minister like Mr. Arun Jaitley, and he has his people whom he consults. There are economists in the country. I would be 100% sure that GST was introduced at the right time, because when you have already introduced demonetization and you feel that there is a need for fiscal reform of ensuring that there is one tax in the entire country, then it was GST, and GST is again proving that it is helping the economy rather than hindering it. But let me just, no, Priya, let me just complete myself. One point I wanted to make. Yeah, Manish ji was talking about the cabinet decision, whether the cabinet approved or not. I am reminded, you know, the cabinet had approved of an ordinance when the Honorable Supreme Court brought in a ruling that any MP or MLA, if he is disqualified and he is sentenced to more than 2 years of imprisonment, Rahul Gandhi, an approved ordinance of the cabinet, tore it. So, you know, a party which does not respect cabinet decisions is now talking about cabinet approvals or not. These are not the points to be debated. The point is that demonetization has been a huge success. The economy has...
There's no qualification to that.
No.
Will you use the word huge success?
It has
Can
been
you
a...
concede? Can you concede?
It has been a huge success,
I'll tell you why I'll say this, Gaurav. I say this with empathy.
Yes.
You know, when you...
We need your support also, not just empathy, sir.
My point is that when you overemphasize the dividends of something which could be debated, you weaken your argument. Don't say it was a huge success.
So it was a huge success.
It was a well-intentioned
I also
attempt.
wanted to respond to your point. On one end, you said that, you know, a decision was taken and the government was not open to suggestions. Whereas the criticism from the opposition also has been that at various junctures, whenever we got feedback, there were notifications made, there were alterations to the demonetization. So you can't blame us on, you know, both counts. That we were open to suggestions and then we were changing the goalpost also.
Okay, last word to Manish and Rajiv.
Priya, there's a difficulty. You see, the moment you start discussing the merits of demonetization, the merits of the goods and service tax when it was implemented, the BJP goes back to one argument that we are clean and everybody else is tainted. The difficulty with that argument is that these days they have three ideological constructs. The first is income tax, the second is CBI, and the third is the Enforcement Directorate, which they have unleashed on all their political opponents. The problem with that, the problem is that when you sow the wind, you reap the whirlwind.
Rajiv, last word on demonetization.
No, look, I say this with no attempt at politicizing it. The need to qualitatively clean up the economy was there. It was there in 2012, 13, 14, 15. The Prime Minister took a tough decision. It was a tough decision. But the requirement of demonetization was very, very, very important. It required to be done. We can quibble, we can argue about whether it was done right, whether it was done perfectly or not. But I also want to end by saying that the results of demonetization are twofold. One is behaviorally, we have moved a large part of the cash economy into the formal economy. Real estate prices have crashed. The whole entire edifice of cash being such an all-pervasive presence in the economy is reducing. Number one. Number two, this argument about whether the government has got these huge dividends that it expected to get, it is still a work in progress. The report card on that, I suggest that we come here 1 year later and you examine this, the data.
Rajiv, just very quickly, you know, you say that a large part of the cash component has been moved into the formal economy. You know, you are as much as a political animal as all of us. Look at the elections in Uttar Pradesh. Look at the elections in Punjab. The cash component remained absolutely the same. So therefore, when you say that the cash component has been diminished to any extent because of demonetization, there is no empirical evidence to back that up.
I think to argue that there was one magic pill,
that's how it was touted. That is how it was touted. It was touted as the magic bullet.
Let me just end by saying, I think Rajiv has hit the right note, that the assumption that there could have been one magic pill or wand was perhaps flawed. And certainly in its implementation, that flaw got amplified several times more. And that is something that you can introspect about.
Well, that's it. Demonetization was supposed to be a battle between black and white, but it's, I think, floundering somewhere in the grey area. The intent was right, but what people are actually questioning is the implementation. On that note, we end this show. Thank you for watching this roundtable. We'll see you again, same time next week.